Good to have you here, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.
You leave soon, Australia, to go to the States, don't you?
Yes, on Wednesday.
Oh, that's so soon.
Yeah,
So it's good to
very soon.
So it's good to actually have you here.
Yeah, I'm so glad we squeezed it
Spit
in.
some truth
Yeah.
for today. Yeah. So look, for people who don't know you, where are you from?
I'm from Canton, Michigan. So it's like, if anyone doesn't know where Michigan is, it's near Chicago, Illinois. A lot of people have heard of Chicago, so that's usually what I reference. A lot of people have heard of Detroit. I'm right in between Ann Arbor and Detroit because Canton's a big town in the sense that we had, 6,000 people that went to our high school, and it's high in population.
I still can't get over that number.
I know, it's crazy. And it's high in population, but it's still just like a small suburb town in the sense of the community and the way it runs. So I usually describe it either I'm right in between Ann Arbor and Detroit, or if people don't know anything about Michigan, I just say I'm near Chicago.
Yeah, we do know Michigan through Michael Moore as well.
Oh, perfect.
Or
yeah,
Flint.
from Flint. Yeah. Great.
The place with the dirty water.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. So you're nowhere near.
Yeah.
You're not
Flint
near Flint at
water
all.
crisis. Actually, I'm about two-ish hours away.
Okay.
Yeah, 2.5. Yeah.
And do you know the
Flint.
population of Michigan? I can look it up.
Yes, please look it up
Yeah,
because I think when I looked it up, I know it's bigger than Western Australia, like population,
Okay.
even though it's extremely small in size compared to Western Australia. I know we have more population
It's
than
about 2.5 million.
yeah,
Wow.
around about yeah.
And where you live, is it quite multicultural or
Yeah,
predominantly one?
No, it's pretty diverse. I think, once again, like going to that Plymouth Canton Educational Park with 6,000 students, and it didn't just include Canton. It included, a little bit outside
Sure.
the city, like Salem, Plymouth, yada, yada, yada. Different areas all brought into that one. It did give us a more multicultural aspect there. Yeah.
What was it like growing up there?
I loved it. It was extremely social. There was lots of activities always going on. Grew up playing soccer. And yeah, it was extremely active. It is very like white picket fence. Like,
It is?
yeah, it is. I've noticed this versus Michigan and Australia, or even like just the U.S., Australia, like our houses are like built more upwards, like taller, like 2-story, 3 stories, versus like more like here you guys have more like the ranch, longer,
Sure.
like complexes.
The ranch.
The ranch. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love ranch dressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very, the community was very close. You knew your neighbors and would have like neighbor parties, and we'd all play in the streets and, play like street hockey and ride your bikes around. And
It's a little different here.
yeah, a little bit. I did notice that a little bit with, there's a lot of pros and cons between and differences between the U.S. and Michigan, where I grew up, and Perth, where one of the things I noticed, we have a lot of community pools. Like the neighborhood would all go in and spend a little bit more, whatever they agreed upon, money on getting a neighborhood pool that would be kept up by the neighborhood, and everyone would be able to come and enjoy that, or like a little facility.
Sure.
And here, especially because it's so hot most of the year.
Oh, you're talking literally a pool, not like a money pool that everyone chips in
like
for
a swimming
emergencies.
pool.
Oh, okay.
Like a swimming pool, or even like they would all fund and come together to get like playgrounds within
Sure.
their community, which I was surprised to, because there is a lot of pools, but there are community pools in the sense of like at the YMCA or those type of things, but there's no neighborhood pools, which I felt like that brought the neighborhood,
Sure.
Closer together.
It is a little different.
Yeah, a little different.
I'm sure there's places in Australia. It depends, like more in, outside the city.
Yeah.
Maybe in the country towns.
Definitely.
Well, you'd expect. I wouldn't know. I'm just assuming. But yeah, well, we see that in movies actually.
What?
Like the neighbors all know each other, and
Yeah, it is.
from the American movies.
Yeah.
We sort of assume it would be that way, which is quite nice too.
Yeah, but there's pros and cons to both. I think you guys have close tight-knit groups where, like, I mean, families are extremely close here, and the friends that people do have, they spend a lot of their time with those friends. I mean, and this is just based off of my own personal experiences, but in the community that I was in, it was like more like you had really close friends, but you also like had groups that you would hang out with bigger social groups, I guess, or bigger events or community parties or neighborhood parties and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just different. Yeah.
How far is Chicago from where you grew up?
It's about 4 hours. So
it's quite a way.
Yeah. So 2 hours was my college in Kalamazoo, Western Michigan, and then 2 more hours from there was Chicago. But see, that's another comparison we can make. 4 hours to me, like in Michigan, I had a cottage that was 4 hours. We would do that weekend trip all the time. Driving 4 hours to us was just like, okay, like it's no big deal. But for here, I feel like the longer drives, like for instance, Margaret River, like people plan way ahead to go to Margaret River, where like Margaret River, the distance would be about going to my cottage. So I would just...
The difference, I think, is that you've got so much more to see on the way.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that's true.
We have so much vastness in between. Like you could be driving for an hour, not see anything but farmland. Where I think in the States, you get that road trip. Route 66, am I right?
Yeah.
That goes from the west to the east. That's one of them.
Yeah.
But there's so many states that you're going to pass and go to towns and cities and things. There's so much more to see. Yeah. I think that's why over here a 4-hour road trip, people are like, it's going to be quite a long time.
Yeah.
When in essence it's not.
Right.
In Sydney, peak hour, it would sometimes take an hour and a half to travel 8 kilometres.
8 kilometres.
It's nothing.
No, that is nothing.
I don't know how many miles that is. Is it 5 or 4.5?
Yeah, it's about
5 miles
ish. Yeah,
or just over half. Yeah, because of peak hour. But there was no road rage. Everyone would be used to it. Everyone would let each other in, and so you get used to that. We're in Western Australia. For one, we're the most geographically isolated city in the world.
Right.
North, south, east, west. The closest other city is, we are isolated. Even though we don't feel it, but geographically we're the most isolated city. So 4 hours drive down south, north, east, or east seems like 20.
Ages,
Yeah, and I think that's it. I think in America you have so much more to see as you go through.
Yeah.
Your college, what was it like?
It was large. It was a university. It had a lot of people. It was, once again, very social. It had, I think in the aspect it was very like work hard, play hard. Like it wasn't, in the movies they make it seem like it's crazy, party all the time.
I was going to my question was going to involve, is it like it in the movies? I just thought that's so cliche. Don't say it, Wayne, but you brought it up. So yeah. Yeah,
I think in the movies, it's coming from an exaggerated perspective.
Entertainment.
Yeah, exactly. There is some reality base behind that, where there are like a lot of parties and a lot of gatherings and frats and sororities and all of these things.
Just explain that to an Australian.
Oh, okay.
What is a frat and what is sorority?
So a frat and a sorority, I actually never joined one. So someone that was a part of it could give you more in-depth detail, but I'll give you like a broad summary of it. Is a group of people that, so they started way back when the college started, and it's a community base that wants a group to be a part of during the college experience. A lot of times frat and sororities provide housing where you stay at the house for a year or two. They provide social events. They provide, it's supposed to be a lifelong, what they call brotherhood or sisterhood.
Oh, okay.
So where even after graduation, we're going to help you all throughout college. We'll be your support system. We'll be your social system. We'll provide all this. We'll even help you with housing and food and whatever else.
While you're studying, or
okay, so there's 2 routes, kind of. There's more than 2 routes, but let's break it up into 2 routes. You could do the frat and sorority one, or you can just do your own your own social group and your own. You would get your own apartment, or you would stay at the dorms and do your own thing. Where if you went with the frat and sorority route, you would spend your 1 or 2 years at the frat or sorority, and then after that, you would probably move out with the other frat or sorority sisters or brothers.
Oh, so it's
and
one
into your other house.
It's like a community house where
it's a
you
community
have
house.
many
Perfect.
people.
Yeah, and a lot of times, a lot of their events are based there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a perfect explanation as a community house. But a lot of people, I found that a lot of people don't understand too. Like on top of the expensive college tuition, they're also paying for an extra fee and cost within going to a frat and sorority, and you have to.
So it's like a membership fee as well.
Yeah, I mean they are providing resources, but you're definitely paying for those resources.
Sure.
Also, they are. Within the frat and sorority, I completely forgot what I was going to say now.
Yeah, you're talking about it's sort of they look after you while you're there, but there's 2 routes to go, you were saying. After the sorority, they then blend back into the...
Also, you have to audition or try out, or there's this thing called recruitment week where you go and try to go to different sororities and have them pick you. Or different frats,
right?
And you have to be invited to go to that recruitment.
I've seen some movies that reflect that. Yeah. Okay, got you. Yeah. Now I understand it.
Yeah, there was a handful of reasons why I didn't go that route, but there's once again pros and cons. But there is if you don't know anyone, you're going to giant university and you don't know anyone, and you want a solid, tight-knit group that will be there with you not only through college, but also when you're going for job interviews and you're continuing out throughout life. Because a lot of these sororities are based all throughout the U.S. So even for instance, there'll be one like Delta Zeta, and that will be within Michigan, but then also have other housing that are same as Delta Zeta throughout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got ya.
So you can always even if you don't know that person, you can always reach out to them, and it's sort of this inner group thing.
Did you try it for any of them?
No, I went to a couple of events, and I had a lot of friends that were in frats and sororities, and I would go to their parties and hang out with them or go to their houses and do events with them, and they were great people. Don't just because I didn't. No, it was awesome, but it was personally for me. It just wasn't. It wasn't for me. Yeah,
who
it wasn't.
You were.
Yeah, I didn't.
Was it that, or you just got rejected from every one of them?
They didn't accept me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, you're touching on sensitive subjects now.
All these memories come flooding back.
Yeah.
You getting the royal flush. Do you know what that is?
No, what is
when they stick your head in the toilet and then push the flush?
Oh, we call it swirlies.
Swirlies?
Yeah, swirlies.
Because of the water?
Yeah.
I don't know. I quite like the royal flush.
Rejected.
Yeah.
Again.
So your college life was pretty good?
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, it was really good.
But you were a pretty academic student anyway. You saying, from what I remember, you said you got mostly A's and B's. Am I right?
Yeah, I had it. Even getting into a nursing program was quite competitive. And you had to get almost all straight A's in order to actually get into the program. Because, for instance, all colleges are kind of formed differently based off of the curriculum and how the college actually works. But usually it's 2 years of prereqs or 1 year prereq. Prereqs means just the general education, the basics. And then from those grades, you apply into different colleges.
Sure.
And the nursing one, it's just how many seats they have based off of how many teachers and how many classrooms and how many people they can actually teach. So based off of that, how competitive it is how many people are applying at the time. So in order to get even at the time that I was even applying, you had to get into pre-nursing and then get into pre-nursing because it was so competitive. They were accepting people into pre-nursing and then cutting that number in half and saying only half of that could go into nursing. And then you went into pre-nursing, you did your first set of classes, and that really was going to weed out the people that you did your first set of classes this isn't for me.
Sure.
So then you went into nursing after they decided this wasn't for me.
So you got to be pretty young to sort of go, look, I'm going to make this commitment and push it all the way.
Oh, yes. I decided when I was 15, and then went to
who
college
the
at
hell
18.
knows?
Yeah. And then applied
Really?
for pre nursing at like 19. And then, continue on from there.
Who knows what
Yeah.
they want to do at 15? I mean, you're going to have to be pretty lucky to
Yes.
sort of go, hey, this is exactly what I want to pursue.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, especially after high school, they have no idea.
No idea. I mean, and how much do you change during that time too?
I know.
Yeah. So even if they think they know, they might be going through huge life-changing circumstances and situations where they're still trying to figure out who they are, or, even just making changes in their life and deciding, that's definitely not the route for me.
Do you still keep in touch with anyone from that time?
Yeah.
In college?
Yeah. I mean, I still have friends from high school and friends from
that's
college.
good.
I mean, my best friend, Akasha, that she really introduced me to traveling. And I met her in college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have some like lifelong great friends from those experiences. Yeah.
It's good to have, huh?
Yeah.
I've still got 8 friends that I keep in touch with from high school.
I know, that's awesome. You still have your core high school friend group.
That's crazy. I caught one of them's Iranian, and he escaped Iran during their troubled times to come here.
Wow.
And he was telling, he's the head of he's a manager at the water corporation, and he was saying to his friends that I'm catching up with some old school buddies in the university. And he's like, no, actually high school. And it's only when people get that sort of reaction we realise how rare it is that there's 8 of us, and most of us have families, and we're all professionals doing our own thing, but yet we still keep in touch, and we realise it's quite rare. We don't think it's rare until we meet other people. So whenever I do meet someone else that catches up with a old college buddy or high school, I'm like, oh, that's really cool,
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So so you went into nursing really quickly, but first you wanted to travel. Is that right?
Actually, it was more so during and after nursing. Or at least during it. Oh, sorry. I get what you're saying.
College.
I thought you meant studying nursing, but yeah. So I wanted to travel before starting my career in nursing. Yes, I get what you're saying. Because mainly my first travel trips were starting throughout college. And then after I graduated, that's when I did my longer trip. And that's when I started traveling, was before I decided I wanted to get into my career and start building time and effort. Well, also because I knew I wanted to do some traveling nursing, whether if that was in the U.S. or international. And in order to do travel nursing, you had to have a decent chunk of experience. They say minimum 1 year, they'd like 2 years. So I knew once I would get a job that if I was going to do travel nursing, that I really needed to focus in on getting some solid experience in my profession before doing that.
Do you think it should be a law, that when you finish high school, everybody should at least take a 3-month holiday?
Yes.
But
not a rule, highly suggested. Because everyone's different. Maybe that extremely, I take that back though, because everyone is different. Because you could take a 3-month holiday and just like be a homebody and still stay at home and just relax for 3 months without getting into your career. I get what you're saying, that you should be exposed, but
not just that. I think we don't have, in most cultures, there's a rites of passage.
Yeah.
From a teen to an adult.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
So in a lot of Western cultures, we're trying to go from there's rain outside. That's why the lights are flashing. It's weird cool. That way. Every now and then the lights will flash and we're like, oh yeah, it's raining outside. We don't have that rites to passage. So I think after high school, if kids are made to go on a 3-month holiday, some to Europe for a year or whatever, I think you learn so much in that time.
Oh, definitely.
Where it can focus your options on what you want out of life.
Yeah.
Because kids these days don't have time. They don't even have time to think.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like you said, 15 years old. You sort of had to sort of roughly know before you take this journey into college, right? How many of us at 15 sort of sit there and go, but you have to choose something. If you know you're going in that direction, you've got to choose something. But is it harder, do you think, to take time off and then come back into that world again?
I think it would be. I don't.
Oh, look how much it changed you.
Yeah, it would be. I think if we took the time off at like before you even went into So you're saying, would you take the time off between high school and college, or between college and starting your professional career?
No, high school and college.
That would be so hard. I think making it mandatory after college maybe, but
No, because you've already done your studies towards a profession
that you already
college.
chose. Yeah.
You know?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I think there'd be some big changes in the world. I don't think if I came back from my 3-month trip, I probably at that time wouldn't have went into college. I don't know. And I love my college education. I love where I'm at and I love my profession. Or it just would have taken me a lot longer because I would have just been so exposed. I just know coming back from that trip, I was so just ready to be more exposed to the world and see what else was out there. And to dive into another 4 or 5 years of college would have just been so hard for me to commit to. Yeah.
So most people probably wouldn't take that commitment, you think?
Going back into...
Well, they come back from overseas just like, fuck it.
Yes. I don't think they
would. There's no way I'm
Yeah.
going that way.
Exactly.
Or it's an excuse. I will get there, but there's other parts of the world I'm going to see. And 30 years later, you're still traveling around the world. Still trying to go, what am I going to do?
Yeah. I mean, I think I take back my last statement of not making it mandatory for people to travel at 3 months. I guess I was thinking of some people I know are afraid to even fly, but we'll just send them on a bus and send them down south, go to South America, anywhere. Yeah. But no, I think it should be mandatory. I mean, at least at some point in your life, whenever that may be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be overseas. Like you said, just take a bus and go to another state, somewhere that's out of the world you've grown up on and been consumed by. I think that could be a good thing.
No, definitely.
So did you actually work in any other state besides Michigan?
No, I just worked in Michigan. So I graduated in 2015 from Western Michigan University. I worked there for a little bit longer while I passed my boards, and then I went traveling a little bit for 3 months. And then I came back and got a job at the University of Michigan working at the Children's Hospital. It's called CS Mott Children's Hospital.
Where did you travel to?
I went to Southeast Asia. So my best friend, Akasha, she was on a 6-month travel trip with my other really good friend, Kayla. And they were traveling for 6 months all throughout Southeast Asia. So I was like, when I graduate, I'm coming to meet up with you. So at the end of their trip, I joined for Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. I landed in Bangkok, but I didn't get to see Thailand or Bangkok really for one. I was jet lagged. And for 2, we just went straight to Cambodia. So we spent a month in Cambodia, a month in Laos, and a month in Vietnam.
Because it's quite expensive to travel to Southeast Asia from the States, isn't it?
It's an expensive flight. Obviously, once you get to Southeast Asia, it's I was blown away about how inexpensive it is to travel. Once you're there, yes, it's beautiful, especially as a relatively broke new grad. I mean, well, I was because I was in debt, but I also saved up some money for this trip. But yeah, broke new grad that, it was really cheap once you got there. That being said, when I did go, I was 22 turning 23, and I still had my dad's flight benefits, which was lovely because I got to catch a standby flight over there. And actually, so that saved me a ton of money. Besides that, I think a flight over would be between $1,000 to, around the $1,000 mark to fly over to Southeast Asia from the U.S.
There's a guy I was watching online, and he's made it a business now to actually, he compares places. From the States, he'll say, you can go to New York and you can have a night in New York for this price.
Yeah.
And this is the club, this is the cost of the drinks, this is for your stay. Or you could go to this place outside of the United States.
Right.
And he said one of his favorite places was Colombia.
Yeah.
Especially now. He said for a fraction of the cost. He compares, funny enough, Colombia to Thailand. As in, the rest of the world, a lot of people, his 2 favorite places was Colombia and Thailand.
Yeah.
But to go to Thailand, he was saying for people in the States, it's quite a lot of money in retrospect of going to Colombia. But for us to go to South America, it's so expensive from here. But yet most of us want to go.
I mean, a lot of Americans end up going to Mexico because it's so close and inexpensive. because I've been to Mexico a couple times, and then as well as Mexico is more short-term trips, and I wouldn't actually say I've explored Mexico. I would like to one day. But Guatemala, I went and visited my friend once again. She lived there for a little bit, and the flight was like $200-$300, which isn't too bad. And then once you're there, it was a relatively small price, definitely, to be in like Guatemala or like Central America. Yeah.
How expensive?
How expensive?
Yeah.
So roughly, if you're going to spend a month and you're like backpacking and budgeting, I would say about, if you're going to do a month, I do usually like $1,000 US, but that's also with backpacking, budgeting, but doing things.
Okay.
And that's a rough estimate. Like, yeah, it would maybe like 1,000 to 1,200 for the month if you're doing quite a bit while you're there, because you also want to like see the country and enjoy things and explore. Yeah. If you were just gonna go for a weekend, I don't know, $200 trip there, and then I don't know, $200 or $300 while you're there, $500 trip for an amazing experience in Guatemala, like experiencing a different culture. Yeah, I think travel is for me personally, was one of the most influential and best learned educational experiences I've done, hands down. And I mean, that's from, I met Tate, and like the love of my life while I was traveling. And I've also experienced, you experience and learn a lot about yourself, but you also experience and learn a lot about the outside world. So from, meeting the love of my life, and also
perspective.
And I mean, you can experience terrorism in your own home, but I did experience a terrorist attack, the terrorist attack that just happened in Sri Lanka in April. And I don't know, it's just, you're in different perspective, different mindsets, and there's some real, even without finding love and terrorist attacks, there's a lot of learning to do while you're traveling, all around.
I think so.
All around, yeah.
I think so. I think the fear of not going, I think the regret would be a lot worse than fear. I think if you're an older person, and then thinking, why didn't I go? I think that would be a lot worse than the fear of not going when you're that age, if I'm making sense.
No, yeah, you are. Yeah.
I think regret's a lot worse.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that age and then thinking, why didn't I just break through the fear and go? I'd have an experience, at least to talk about now.
But I think too, there's some people that wouldn't have that regret because they don't know what they're missing, because they haven't traveled before. I
was going to ask you, if your friends were not traveling, would you have traveled?
I think at that time I would have traveled. So I did, my first solo trip was just recently in April, and it was only for like really 2 weeks. But at that time I felt more comfortable. I feel more comfortable now traveling alone, but I felt more comfortable meeting up with people to travel with. There was definitely that interest and desire to travel, and I jumped on board as soon as I could. But I definitely would have been searching for someone to do it with me, just because that uncertainty. And my best friend has traveled way more than I have, and so she was an experienced traveler, and just to have her there, I wanted to experience a decently large travel trip, but to have a partner in crime and someone to help guide me through it as well. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and it was just easier with her to teach you how to find good places to go, or how to use the transportation, or, that's half the fun, figuring out as well. Like, she didn't know the answers, but she knew how to figure it out.
Okay.
And that was what I really learned from her. Like, was just, how do you, when you're out there and you don't know, but how do you figure it out?
you get surprised how resourceful you become.
Yeah.
Especially when you are out of your comfort zone in that sort of way. Yeah. You were talking about, it does give you perspective on things. Besides, finding the love of your life.
Yeah.
What are some of those perspectives that you learned about the world, do you think, that you've taken with you?
Yeah. A huge one is the concept behind wants and needs. Where is that desire coming from? Is it something that you need, or is it something that you want? And then that was a huge life-changing shift for me, really debating about what's needed in my life and what's wanted. And then also the concept between a community, like how different communities work and how people could have so little materialistic things and have so much more when it comes to relationships and taking care of one another and loving and caring and generosity, and be genuine. It's not expecting anything out of it. It's just from a genuine spot of wanting to help and wanting to take care of each other in a community. I think those were two really big things that I was like observed and learned. Also, I think we've talked a lot about like knowing yourself and taking care of yourself. You realize where you come from and your identity and what you identify with, and where some of these thoughts, feelings, emotions, yourself in general are coming from, and what place it's coming from, by experiencing other cultures and other worlds. But also, I spend a lot of time trying to focus on identifying that and understanding it, but also letting it go when your ego and your mind is getting in, and your thoughts are getting in the way of in a situation, when they're coming up in a negative way, instead of identifying with that voice inside of your head, realizing it and letting it pass when it's in the negative. I don't know that am I.
Yeah.
I kind of went on a tangent, but I think when I was traveling, the identity perspective as well, like knowing where you're coming from, but then also learning how to like let some of the identity go and like that ego and the voice get in your way of things. Yeah.
You know what it did with me?
Yeah.
Because egos are hard. It's a bitch.
Yeah, it is.
To everyone. And it always sneaks back in. Always. I think it's because of the society we live in. How it changed me. Yeah. How letting go ego in a way. It's travel, especially because I love traveling to all these, the ancient cultures. I realized how insignificant we were. I know it sounds crazy.
No, but I get what you're saying.
Because especially in Greek mythology, we were nothing to the gods.
Yeah.
We were nothing. Human beings were a distraction.
Yeah.
But it was refreshing. It was refreshing to sort of read something where we are not the be-all and end-all in the center of the universe.
Yeah.
It made me feel insignificant, but in a good way.
Yeah. It almost gave you a humble experience.
Like, who are we?
Yeah.
Like, why are we complaining about this? We're not important. And I don't know, it was a backward way of improving oneself. When you said, I'm not important, I'm not insignificant, it was almost a Tyler Durden way, like a Fight Club way of just going, we're not snowflakes.
Yeah.
We're not beautiful creatures. We come and in a blink of an eye we go.
Gone, yeah.
So, but it made me a better person. It let go of that ego a little bit easier, just by understanding that, we're insignificant in the big scheme of things. Like when you're talking about the universe and, our life and Earth.
Yeah.
Like, yes, the environment's in trouble, but the world will recover. Human beings won't.
Yes.
And that's just, human beings will be another part. I had another guest here, Mike McCall. We were talking about the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he said exactly that. In the big scheme of things, we're not even a blink. So when we get into this all glorified importance of who we are, it's not that at all. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to sort of let go of ego.
Yeah.
And just do the things that make us smile.
Yeah.
Instead of worrying about, what's going to happen in 5 months. We may not be alive in 5 months, as in anything could happen to us. We nearly got into a serious car accident yesterday.
Wow.
And, we came away from that and it just reminded us that anything could happen at any time. We're talking about change before and how change is the one thing that is always constant. And I think that's how I let go of ego.
Yeah.
Is I came back and I learned about the mythology of that culture and then sat there and went, we're not important.
Yeah.
So why am I making things to be?
Yeah. Also like having that humble experience of being able to let go of the ego and realizing that we're not as significant as we might think we are, lets you do more things that you enjoy with your time, but also like what I'm going to leave. All right, we're only here for a short period of time, but what I'm going to leave behind, what can I do that is good and help out instead of like just focusing on myself, because myself isn't as significant as I thought I was, you know? So like, what can I do that, is just pure joy, but also like, what can I do that is good? I don't know. That's the way I look at it, in the sense that like we are here just for like a blink of time, but like during that time, what sort of impact do I want to have? Like, and I want to have a positive, contagious, good impact. And I don't know, figuring out the ways to do that. Yeah.
Do you think it's because we're not parents? I think things change when you're a parent.
Yes, that could be that too.
Yeah. So when you have kids, then there is significance.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, no, my kid is the most important thing in this world.
Yeah.
So, and often I think, do I think that way because I'm not a parent? So I can easily go, yeah, we're insignificant.
That's true.
We're just specks of dust. I'm going to come and go. Who cares, And
then we have a baby like, I have one purpose.
to be the king. I want to rule the world and I want him to take over everything.
My legacy.
Yeah, I know. Screw everybody.
My family's the most
it's
important.
Not about helping anybody but yourself. No. But you can understand that. I had an interesting chat with my friends because they've got 4 kids.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the difference between countries. So I'm not, I won't mention the country because I've got a lot of friends there. But, they said Australia's lazy, like France, like, Germany. I said, I don't think you can generalize a whole population on that.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about France, and the reason why they said it wasn't because of work, and it wasn't about that. It was about how much time that we have off as a culture. And I said to him, what you call lazy, I call appreciating that time. Like we're not living to work.
Yeah.
So when we do have that time, Australians enjoy it, and I'm sure Americans do too. France, I know Germany, I think, get 3 months off, like nearly 12 weeks. I think they get off.
Wow.
Well, that's why they're some of the most travelled cultures in the world. But they work they work hard. But when they have time off, they get rewarded and they travel. So I don't think we're lazy because we have so much time off. And that was a big thing because they were parents. So a lot of their motivations came from providing. So in other words, I could be $3 million in debt. I don't care because eventually my kids will have those assets to go on. And I can understand that. I can understand that to a point because I don't think that you should give up your whole life listen, it's going to sound weird, but I don't think you should give up your whole life because also I think kids need to be inspired by example.
Yeah.
So who's to say that your kids then won't do it and give up their life for the next person and then for the next person? Are you ever going to just take that bit of that time to enjoy what you have already?
Yeah.
I mean, kids, so many kids are affected by struggles at home when it comes to finances. I was a victim of that. My sister was a victim. I mean, we didn't have it as hard as other people, but everything that happened at home that got out of hand was because of arguments about money, most of it. So there is pros, there's cons, but I think at the same time, if we appreciate the simple things, and like you said right from our first conversation, you learn things when you travel to other cultures. You learn things that, materialism doesn't make you happy. I mean, it's always said, and it sounds so freaking cliche.
But it's true.
It is true only because I know people with wealth that are not happy.
Yeah.
And It doesn't. It just doesn't. I think happiness comes from other things. I always call the materialism, the 4-year-old Christmas present. When you're 4 and you wish for something, for months ahead, you eventually get it. 2 weeks later, you're wishing for the next Christmas present.
Yeah.
And the only thing that happens when you get older is the presents get more expensive. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a different type of happiness. It's an external happiness. I read somebody once said that their lives will be defined by the things they do, not by the things they own. Yeah. And I think that's part of an example that you should share with kids. I think that's part of, how to inspire children to be better people, rather than a good parent is just to be a good provider. I don't know. And, obviously I don't have kids. So what comes back at me is like, Wayne, what the fuck would you know? you don't have kids.
Yeah.
And part of that is true.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I can take unnecessary risks that we wouldn't have done if we had children. Yeah. So we could take those unnecessary risks without thinking, I can't do that. In case something happens, we've got to provide for these kids. Yeah. And I think it's allowed us that sense of freedom to be able to think a bit more freely that could be a little bit more irresponsible. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think I think when you have a kid, once again I don't have a kid either, but I could see the stressors that come from focusing. I need to provide for them. I need to provide for them.
You can understand it.
So then I can see where, those morals and teaching them happiness doesn't just come from the materialistic things, could be put on the back burner because you're focusing so much more on their basic needs of providing for them. And then through providing for them, a way to give back to them is through those materialistic things. But I do think it is extremely important to show the work lifestyle balance. And like we were saying before is Australia has like some like extraordinary time off experience, especially compared to like the US. But I think based off of the two cultures, one of the contrasts that I've seen is, I wouldn't say lazy, I would just say more work lifestyle balance.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Yes, and where in the US it is more like I said before, like work hard, play hard, but also just like more work focus driven and I'm not saying Australians aren't ambitious, but the ambitious determined to get further and further and further ahead, to be comfortable and to be, once you're comfortable, you're happy. But I think then you're missing all of the stuff in between and then you're unhappy. Yeah. So it's a vicious cycle of like working hard and then being unhappy and stressed out and then not finding that balance, where I do think we need more vacation.
Did you find it hard simulating back into your society after being to Southeast Asia? Because I know I did.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, that was my first like bigger trip, and I saw a lot of changes within myself, and it's hard. It's always hard.
Like what?
I just wanted to come back and just share all these experiences and just like change some of the things that I was used to at home, like, with the people that, for instance, let's give an example.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the example.
Yeah, I know. Let's think. Just trying to, I guess the materialistic things is a huge example. Like once you go to somewhere that isn't as focused on the materialistic things, that look and feel and are so genuine and happy, and then you come back and you try to reinforce that at home or share that with your friends and family, and you want them to experience that and think that way, and without telling them like, no, you're wrong for doing this, because that won't get any change. I think that was frustrating to try to share those things with other people and just expect them to understand, because that's why we say travel is the best education, because you have to experience it in order for it to actually make a genuine impact, I think. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Same question back to you.
Well, I went to, I remember preparing myself to go to Myanmar aka Burma. And when we were going, I was preparing myself for, look, Wayne, you're going to be faced to see a lot of poverty here.
Yeah.
And this is going back, I think, 2004. You're going to see a lot of poverty. But, the last thing they want is sympathy. So I was preparing myself in that way because we had family there.
Mm.
So, you've got to act normal but at the same time, I wouldn't like to have someone come to my country and be so sympathetic.
Yeah.
And so don't show them a lot of photos and, it's just, I didn't know what to think really.
Mm.
I've been to Southeast Asia, but not to a country like Burma.
Yeah.
Back then it was very poor. Mm. My biggest shock was getting there and then feeling sorry for myself and the people back home because the people were so nice and happy.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was my shock. That's why I asked you that question, because I came back thinking, now what do I do?
Yeah, like exactly. It's like that was a frustration. You come back and be like, this stuff isn't really making you happy, and like trying to share that.
But you can't.
You can't. That's
You can't.
And the easiest thing you try to compare it with is the materialistic things. Like you're buying this and doing this and stressing out about all these bills and payments and stuff, but it's like it's not making you happy, and you can't. You really can't.
Are they happy?
Mm.
Are they happy? Have they found out that in a way where they can't get material things that we can? So they're either faking. All of them are faking to be happy. It's all the Truman Show because it's like North Korea. You go to North Korea and there's this big we've got plenty, but it's all there. It's all a put on. Or are they sitting there going, we're never going to get it?
Yeah.
So why are we stressed?
Yeah.
In our society, there's capitalism. We can. Like if we try and if we push the right buttons, we can have a lot of wealth.
Mm.
But it's that journey to get the wealth where we fall by the wayside.
Yeah. I think it's capitalism in the sense that it's like overstimulation. There's too much to want. There's too much, and that's where the wants come from. Like the balance between the wants and the needs, like we were saying. I think they've figured out when it's appropriate time to get stressed. Like I'm not saying that they don't have stressors, but they seem genuinely happy because they're stressing about a lot less. And I think it's probably based off of the wants and needs. Like they're more focused on the needs instead of all these hypothetical and potential wants.
But they're stressed then, even though they stress less, wouldn't it be a lot more intense because they are stressing about the needs? Like, are we going to have enough food?
Yeah.
So does it equal out? I don't know.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Because I do know, yes, they're happier in one sense, and there's different levels of happiness, but are they sitting there going, well, we're happy because we don't have that hope that you guys do. So what's the point? But yet our stresses are on, and this is just the hypothesis, like I'm with you here.
Yeah.
Because everywhere I went, they seemed content.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much happiness, it was content. They were content with what they had. The kids didn't want the next iPad. Where over here we're constantly being reminded of what we don't have through social media and everywhere you look. Now someone's, got the new iPhone and new Samsung, and so we're being reminded all the time where they're not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We met when we were in Burma. We met a 98-year-old man, and he definitely lived in a very basic, simplistic lifestyle. You could tell. We ended up coming across him in a small town in Burma. We were on a search to find a actual concentration camp, Japanese concentration camp. His name was Ubitin, and he was. We got led to him because we were trying to find this concentration camp. And they're like, oh, well, he's been here for years and years and years, and his family's been here for generations. So if anyone was going to know where this concentration camp that you're looking for, he would be the guy. So find this Ubitin guy. So we found him, 98 years old, walking around. He still plows in his fields. And you could tell, like, people would come, Westerners, you could say I'm generalizing, but Westerners could come and see his lifestyle and be like, wow, that's not healthy lifestyle. That's, he doesn't have a lot. He needs more than that, yada, yada, yada. But he was extremely happy, extremely healthy. Yes, he probably had stressors at the time in order to provide for himself, but I still think it's the balance between the need, where like his food was probably like fresher, and fresher in the sense of like not preservatives and not packed with chemicals and stuff, and more active a lifestyle and hopefully less stressful of a lifestyle. That's all led him to live up until 98, where he's still walking around, still plowing his fields. Like, it was just mind-boggling to me to see someone at his age and how healthy he genuinely was. Healthy and happy.
Could that be the happiness? Could that be, when somebody goes through tragedy? So Japanese war camps, prisoners of war veterans.
Yeah.
Anything that compares to that level of stress they get over there is nothing in our
perspective.
World. That's their perspective. Our perspective is going to see a poorer nation, as in material wealth.
Right.
Their perspective is life and death.
Yeah.
So does that change things then? So when you do come back, you'll often find these 90-year-olds that have lived through, I saw this Hiroshima veteran the other day talking, he lived through both of those bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But yet his life after that, there was nothing that could compare to that level of pain and stress. So the result of that is he isn't as stressed or worried about the stupid things. I think that makes a difference. I really do. And then there's people that have that over there, that they come back and they just cannot adapt back into this society.
Yeah.
They've just seen and been through too much where they bring that back with them. And then you have, the war veterans that come back and think, you're stressing over not having enough pasta.
Right.
Where's the perspective?
And it's probably too like how to handle stress. Like, I think maybe that's a cultural thing of how to handle stress. Like, if it's like you said with the war veterans, some of them obviously would come back and maybe not be able to, and like PTSD, and would have long-term significant stress effects. But in the day-to-day handling stress, like lifestyle over materialistic things and everything else that we've been saying that's more surface, than the basic, what do I need to do right now to feed my family? And what do I do right now to do the basic needs? Maybe it's a cultural thing about how handling stress. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's a cultural thing as much as an individual thing.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think you can live in the same culture, but some people just, they see it in different ways. People that live next door could be on the verge of like, but yet we're living in the same culture. So I think it's personal experience and perspective.
Yeah.
I think it comes a lot when you do travel. You see perspective, and it gives you a different outlook on life, on your own life. And like you said, you've seen it in the term of wants and needs, and I think that's quite relevant. I think that's quite true.
Yeah.
What do we need in order to feel that? And I think we have to simplify it because our world is so complicated. For me, it came down to, Wayne, just do what makes you smile.
Yeah.
And if it makes other people smile. And would you do what you're doing now if you couldn't tell anyone about it? And that's like a measurement. I heard that the other day. So would you read the book you're reading now? Would you go on the trip you're going on now if you couldn't tell anyone about it anyway? That means it's in the betterment of yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you just sort of have to simplify your own rules to your own life.
Yeah.
If I have, books of philosophy, it doesn't apply to me. Well, they do, but it doesn't connect in certain ways where somebody just tells you, Wayne, just do what makes you smile. So I won't say any names, but someone really important to me once said, what would you do if you could get up every day and do for no money? And if you know what that is, try and make that vocation your vacation.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing what you love, if you enjoy it, it doesn't matter whether you make a lot of money or not, you're a better human being for it. And you don't have these stressful days where you bring that stress home and affect other people. It's very hard to do something you love and come home in a bad mood.
Yeah.
No matter how bad the day gets, it's no matter how bad the work gets, if you are enjoying that, it's very hard for that to be for that job, that energy of that job does infect other people. And bad moods were a big thing with me. Like I grew up in an environment where, people were moody. And so a big thing for me was when I grew up, I didn't want to be in a relationship where there were bad moods. If you have a bad day, let's talk about it. Don't go to sleep in a bad mood. And try and if you have a bad day, it's not because of me. So I'm here to help.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Don't take it out on me.
No, yeah. Well, when I first met my wife and we were first going out, I said to her right from day one, I said, if you're in a bad mood a lot, we're not going to last, because I've had to grow up with that. So we have to talk about it. And she was fine, and thank God, because she's as a big talker like I am. Nobody sees it, but I do. So that was really important to me. And I don't know what led us to this conversation in the first place.
Handling, I don't know either.
Yeah.
Handling stress and happiness. Yeah. So finding out what. I guess the main part of the discussion was like just finding out happiness.
Happiness and stress.
Yeah.
And handling stress in that way. And I think everybody has their own way.
Yeah.
I really do.
No, and I mean, I completely agree. Like for me, what makes me fulfilled and happy is helping others. So if I can put all my time and effort into helping others, or like my job it is directly working with patients and helping, putting that time, energy, I enjoy doing it. So it just comes more naturally, more easy, and you're not fighting against yourself the whole time. Because if you're doing something that you don't enjoy doing, or doesn't make you happy, doesn't make you smile, I think it's more of a struggle. So being entwined with, what your interests are and what brings you fulfillment. And even if your job isn't bringing you fulfillment, like your free time, like what you're doing with your free time in order to bring happiness and fulfillment to that. Yeah. I think that's huge with just knowing your identity and what you're like, even being in touch with, during different things. Because you can lie to yourself like, this does make me happy, but are you really showing it? Is your energy really giving out that, is what you're telling yourself what your energy is really portraying as well? Like, what your mind and
I was just thinking someone, what if killing people makes somebody happy? Then what? Did you have a good day? I had a freaking brilliant day. Let's bring that home. And I'm a joyous person. Yeah. But
let's bring that home.
You'd get that.
Let's do it in our free time.
You'd have your psychopaths out there. It's like, that's me. Yeah. They're listening to this now going, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask is the differences between, I was curious, being a nurse and coming here in Australia and working.
Yes.
What are the differences?
Oh, there was a lot of differences. A huge basic difference was just terminology. I mean, you guys have so many, even just if you were to compare and contrast, like the way U.S. talk and the way Australia talks, and just different lingos, and you guys shorten a lot of things. So even a basic thing that I know like the back of my hand at my job, if they were to call it something else here, and I like took a second to ask a question like, oh, what are you talking about? Since it's a basic part of my job, that could make me look when I was first learning the differences in the terminology to the other workers. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know what that is? That's a basic part of a job. I'm like, oh, well, we call it this in the US. So that was like a huge thing, is learning the different terminology.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of medical terminology that's exact same. But for instance, I work in the theater, so a lot of instruments, even from hospital, they can be called different names. So, so even the instruments from country to country could be called different things. So just learning the way things were done here.
You said you call a hospital. What do you call a hospital?
No, within hospitals, they would call instruments different names. So if I went, I worked at U of M, but even if I went down the road to a different hospital, those surgeons could nickname or call different instruments different names. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So learning those that was a huge hurdle. Another big thing is I did agency nursing when I was here in Australia. And agency nursing in the US, you get based mainly in one hospital for a set contract. So anywhere from 3 to 6 to 9 months at a time, you sign a contract, and it's pretty much saying this hospital needs a nurse in your specialty to come in and fill in the gap with people being sick, or just they're in the hiring process, or people are on leave. Where in Australia, your agency nursing is what I started off with when I came over here. The agency nurses are called the night before or the morning of your shift and notified which hospital you're going to.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
So there's no I thought there was like a week roster.
No. It was,
what?
Yeah, it was all through agency. You're all notified through an app, or either they call you and they notify you which shift and which hospital you're heading to. So when I was working as an agency nurse here, I was working at 12 different hospitals all through the Perth metropolitan area. So picture coming from a different country, coming over here, learning how to get around, the transportation, how to, getting a car, getting all settled in, driving on the other side of the road, just learning those differences, as well as coming in and bopping around from hospital to hospital. And meeting new people every day. It was the first couple months, to be frank, were relatively difficult just to get my footing. The job itself, I felt very comfortable and confident. Like I knew how to do my role, and I felt very good doing the job, because I had 2.5 years experience before that doing that same role. So the job itself and the surgery and the procedures, those were all extremely familiar and easy to me. It's the fact of just getting the flow of the hospitals, and it felt like the first day of work over and over again the first couple months, because I was going to so many different hospitals at a time.
What are the biggest differences between the people?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because we never hear it from...
Yeah.
We always give the difference because Australians that travel elsewhere.
Yeah.
But what do you think are the biggest differences between working in America, not the work, but the people?
Not the work, but the people, but just people in general, not even in the work aspect.
What are the cultural differences between people here in the States?
I think one that we've already brushed up on a little bit, and this is talking about work again, but is the work-lifestyle balance. I think Australia has it figured out with how to have more of a lifestyle work balance. And I think the States do have more of a work-focused driven. It's first work and ambitions, determinations, whatever. And then everything else is kind of how do we fill in our extra spare time with that, doing the social aspect. Speaking of social aspect, I do, and maybe it's just because we're in Perth, but Perth is more of a sleepier city than I'm used to, where I do feel like a lot of cities within the U.S. are extremely, it's not extremely more active, and there's always events and concerts and shows going on, or you're always making plans to do social events, where here there are events and shows and stuff, but the importance of spending your extra time to go to those should I go or should I relax at home and watch TV? And I'm not saying one's better than the other.
No. We
but
noticed,
I definitely noticed
even from
that.
the east to the west coast here,
Yeah.
Melbourne and Sydney,
Yeah.
it's a lot busier. But we like that, I grew up in my 20s in Sydney. It was a very hard to come back to Perth and adjust to this way because it's like everyone's walking in slow-mo when you get here.
Yeah, but
no one rushes. Everyone's just like, even the rush hour here is nothing.
Yeah.
But after a while, you sort of get used to it. You sort of sit there and go, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it is hard. Because I am a city person. My wife's a city person too. So we found that
you
pretty
like
hard.
to be extremely active and
not just, but knowing there is
options,
things happening around us.
Yeah.
Like we used to go to this big band. They used to play big band. I was 25 with my friend and we used to take cigars down to this place called Soup Plus. And there used to be a big band down there, 14-piece band, jazz music. And we used to just go on a Monday night. Every Monday night we'd go and we'd just drink whiskey, smoke a cigar, or 24, 25, and listen to big band music. And then it would be in this 100-year-old bar on Friday night called Barron's. And, it would be a place that looked like vampires would hang out. The old Chesterfield fireplaces, backgammon tables, dark. But yet every walk of life was there. So
I just pictured the scene in Blade where they go into the club, though.
No.
It's like raining blood.
That's an abattoir. No, this was...
I was like,
this was
like more old school style.
Yeah, more old school. More sort of... what's the Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt film? Interview with a Vampire. Yeah, it's almost something that would be in Europe. And there's these huge fireplaces, backgammon tables, old Chesterfields everywhere, a jukebox, and a bar, an Austrian guy who'd worked there for 30 years. And any walk of life, like you'd go there and you'd see goths, you'd see people in business suits, you'd see anyone. Punks, but yet everybody would be there because they would all just mingle and like the atmosphere. So you'd go from big band to suddenly a place like Barron's, and then Saturday there was this place that looked like Happy Days. I don't know if you remember Happy Days.
Yeah.
And it would be 24 hours and you could order alcohol and eat in there, and they'd have these huge booths and these girls and guys would come in, take orders. It was the best place ever, but three such different places.
Yeah.
Perth, there are places. Perth's come a long way compared to...
it's growing.
Well, Sarah should have been here 20 years ago. It was...
Nothing.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
They had... I grew up here, so I'm a bit biased, and I love that time.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, when I went to Sydney and spent most of my 20s there, and I walked around going, oh my God, this city's huge, and coming from this place, it was very different. But I liked that variety. I like knowing that there's things always on. But you could be sitting at home watching television if you wanted to, that sort of thing.
You have your choices if you want to. And you wouldn't have to go out and search for it if you needed to. Whereas here, I think you have to have something pre-planned or... where it's not always just going on.
Do you think that you will end up anywhere but the States?
That's a hard question.
I know it's hard because things always change.
It always change. I mean... so for me personally, emotionally, right now it's a hard question to ask because I haven't been home in a year and a half. So I extremely miss home. So I'm just like, no, I would just be home.
Yeah, of course.
Because I miss them and my family. But, I love Perth. Perth is a gorgeous, gorgeous place. And I love Australia. So I think I could see having, at least part of my life here. I don't know right now this time in my life, and especially asking me right now, I just miss my family so much.
Sure.
So just picturing myself forever leaving my family that I'm extremely close with, and my friends in Michigan for good forever. Yes, of course I'd go back and visit, but leaving in the sense that I'm not living there anymore. At this point right now, I don't see it realistically, just out of how I currently feel.
Sure.
But
how big is Michigan?
I don't know square footage, but I think our population, we'd have to fact check this, but I think our population is just as much as like Western Australia. And the size, this was surprising to me too. Like when I first started dating Tate, I didn't realize that the United States and Australia are relatively the same size if you get rid of Alaska. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So like Michigan.
And we have like 23 million people as a whole.
Yeah.
You guys have, what is it, 320, 350, 325?
325. Yeah.
It's 325.
Yeah, it's 325. And you have how many? 22?
About 23 to
23.
25.
Yeah.
That's nuts, hey?
It's crazy. I am almost positive that Michigan has more people
than Australia.
Than Western Australia.
Oh, okay.
I know, like all of the state of Western Australia, which is huge. But how many people, do you know how many people Western Australia has?
Western Australia? I don't.
Well, I do know this. Sri Lanka, which is tiny, and I looked this up, it had 22 million people in comparison of your guys's.
Let me have a look.
24 million. So it was close in population based off of even that. Yeah.
You wanted Western Australia?
Yes.
2.5 million Western Australia.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's nuts.
That's so small.
I remember when it was a million.
Yeah. Well, I would say probably like more, like half of that is at least in Perth as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Have you been to Europe?
So I've never been to Europe, which is crazy to me. Like I've been to quite a few places, but I also I really, really want to go to Europe, but I feel like Europe, for one, it's more expensive than places like Southeast Asia or Central America and whatever else. And then just getting done with, when I did just get done with college, it just seemed like more of an expensive trip.
You would love it though.
Yeah. But I also think it's easier to travel. Like right now I'm so driven and like wanting to get to those hard to reach places and do those treks and to go on crazy hikes and do you can do plenty of hard hikes in Europe, but it's easier travel than some of the places that I want to go currently, I think. I mean, that's just my opinion.
Any countries in mind?
Oh, I would love to do... I've been putting India and Nepal on my back burner as well. Not as far back as like Europe, but because I want to spend a decent amount of time there. So yeah. So I'd love to do like a big, decent trekking trip, especially in Nepal. I would love to do that. And I think India, I'm so drawn to it because I've just never experienced anything like it. I mean, Southeast Asia, you could probably relate some things to it, but I just keep hearing when I hear stories that India is a whole new world. Have you been?
Not to India.
Yeah.
No, I'd like to, because I want to go there to do the story of the Mahabharata. And I know a guy, actually, that's quite a well-known actor here. Yeah. He's acted in, what's that, the Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan film. Not Mongol. It was on Netflix, and he's quite a well-known actor. And I met him in the Emirates, the lounge.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and he said that he's writing a book on the Mahabharata in India. And he said, get me on the podcast. I'd love to talk about it. And I'm thinking, because that podcasting is great because you get people on that know a lot more about what they do than you, and you end up learning a lot. So because I thought, I'll end up doing some study on it, but why not get him on? And he could lead me to the right books and things like that to read, and I think it'd be pretty cool. But no, I've never been. And if I do go, I wouldn't mind knowing someone there.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Or someone that's at least traveled there.
That's traveled there, yeah. I don't know. I've just, I will get there one day, but I've still got so many other countries I'd like to go visit.
Yeah. What's at the top of your list?
Well, we're trying to do most of Europe and the Middle East. So, for instance, the next ancient culture I love is Rome. So I want to go. I'm going to Rome, actually. I'm spending New Year's Eve there.
Yeah, you just bought your ticket, didn't you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then we're actually going back to Greece to see some of the places that we didn't get to before.
Yeah.
And we're really upset we had to leave. So we're going back there. But I've been invited back to Egypt in March by a tour company. So I was messaging him back and forth yesterday And he said, look, whatever you do, just leave March for me, please. So he wants me to go back there and do some filming for him, and he's going to take me on some stuff that I didn't get to before.
Awesome.
But Egypt was an eye-opener. It was an eye-opener because it was spectacle. I had never seen places like it. And I've travelled quite a bit too. I've never seen, and you got to keep reminding yourself on when these things were built. So, you're seeing this, you're going, wow, that's huge. And then you're like, oh, yeah, it's like 3,000 years old. It's bigger than anything we saw in Greece. It's bigger than anything else we saw.
And it's extremely old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I really want to go visit Iran and Iraq. And I'd love to go because everybody that I know that has visited Iran has said it's one of their best countries they've been to.
Wow.
There's 2 American guys. One of them turned around and said, we were going for 2 weeks. We'd booked a hotel for 2 weeks, and we ended up staying in the hotel for 2 days because people were opening their homes to us, and they wouldn't allow us to spend the night.
Hotel. Yeah.
Yep. Excuse me. And they said it was fantastic. So don't, get caught up in the whole media game.
Oh, yeah.
Because the people there are super nice. And I've got a student from Iraq who's saying to me, Wayne, if ever you go, let me know and I'll go back with you. My family's there and I'll take you to places. Awesome. Plus they have real significance in history too. So, you've got the Persian Empire and you've got ancient Babylon, which is Iraq. I'd like to go there. We want to go see Turkey and then move over towards Jordan and places like that. So.
I've been to Istanbul. I haven't.
Have you?
Yeah, I didn't get to see the rest of Turkey, but I've been to Istanbul.
Turkey is Asia and Europe.
Yeah, well, I know. Okay, so technically I've been to Europe, but I don't count. I mean,
we went over there.
Yeah, we went and did the walk over the Bosphorus Bridge. So technically, you could be like, I stepped foot, but at the same time, yeah.
How long were you there?
Just a week. Yeah, just a week, and that was my first big international trip. So I keep saying that, I feel like, but Southeast Asia was my first longer one, and then Turkey was my first one besides Mexico and Canada. So, So yeah, I just went for a week. It was just during my spring break. And to
Turkey?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. My once again, my best friend, she's the one that really, truly inspired me to do some traveling and get me more out of the U.S. She was over there in between leaving a job in Ethiopia that she was doing during college. And then so I met her over in Turkey, Istanbul, and my family was so scared because they had this more they were just afraid of the unknown at the time. And I think more and more that I traveled, my family and friends have opened their minds up to the idea of, what this world can bring, and that you shouldn't be just as scared. Like you said, the media, don't get wrapped up in media games. And at the time there was some protests going on in Istanbul. So my parents were afraid of that. And I think being aware of what areas to avoid or what areas aren't safe is the best way to do it. But it was just a small little area they're doing protests. And I was like, okay, I just won't go to that area. Promised them I wouldn't. And I didn't, but I ended up hearing more of the inside story instead of the media story when I was there. And it was really just, people in their 20s protesting against the government. It wasn't all of what the media was making it out to be. There was we ended up getting a little bit of the replication, in the area that we got a little bit of the tear gas, but that was just them trying to break up the crowd. And that can happen anywhere. So
it does.
Yeah, exactly.
I think people, when we got back from Egypt, the first question we got is it safe?
Right.
And there were places we were going to on our own, just 11 o'clock at night and 12. You've got to be aware as a tourist. But I don't know, there was just something, there were some places in New York that I felt worse. There's some places in Australia I felt worse.
Right, exactly.
So I'm walking around these, and the streets were busy, everyone's having tea. There's no alcohol, you've got to remember.
Yeah.
So already you can eliminate the alcoholic violence that comes with it sometimes.
Yeah.
But no, we felt really safe. So it really depends. And I'm not saying there's no violence that happens there. Of course there is. But like anywhere else in the world.
Right. It's like knowing what areas to avoid when you go to Detroit. It's like knowing not to go super late on the south side of Chicago. It's all the same within your own country. It's just being aware and smart. And then especially when you're a traveler in an area that you might not be as familiar with, just doing your research and being smart. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you had any close calls?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes. It was actually in April. I did my trip to Sri Lanka. I was leaving here, and I was doing Sri Lanka, Burma, and Thailand. I was meeting up with my husband and his grandparents in Burma, and then we were continuing on to Thailand. But yeah, I was in Sri Lanka when the Easter Sunday attacks happened. And I was actually, so the attacks mainly happened on in Negombo, Colombo, and then some other smaller towns that were more like East Coast. By that time, I was already down more like south and southwest coast, and yeah, it was very surreal. But even being I did my research. You know what areas to avoid. You never know when something like that could happen, and it can happen anywhere. It can happen.
Well, can you imagine New Zealand?
It has happened.
Can you imagine people are
plenty
like,
of places
we just want to go to the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And they're there and suddenly, there's this terrorist attack. You don't know.
You don't know. You really don't. And yeah, it was very surreal and eye-opening. I was very lucky because, the areas that were attacked were, I just left them 5 days prior. So, although I was like miles away, there was a bigger town called Mathura that I was driving through. And actually, my husband, Tate, he was the one that called me and really, I noticed there was something going on in Mathura. There was more police officers and there was a lot more commotion, but nothing like hysterical or completely out of the norm. It just seemed like maybe this is a big populated city, so there's more police around. And I was taking my tuk-tuk from one location to the next. I was going to Hirikatira, like a small little beach town, and I was just stopping by there before I went to Ella. So on my way there, Tate called me and was like, "Are you okay?" And in a fluster, I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. What's going on?" And he was the one that first informed me. He's like, "Just get to your next location and turn on the news." And then at that point, like all the Wi-Fi was blocked, so I couldn't contact him or my family after that for a little while. But yeah, I just went to Hirikatira and I was meeting up with a group of people that I met the night before and just laid low and relaxed from there and just decided to change up my plans a little bit just to do a little bit less traveling until things settled down. And when we stayed in Hiri I met up with this other girl at the hostel at the time. Her name was Ketty. And me and her just decided, there was a lot of emotional roller coaster. I'm not going to lie. There was, you were scared at one point. Then I was focusing on, letting my family to know I was safe because I didn't want them to worry. Then it was, just the questions that you obviously ask, like why this is Sri Lanka is one of the most beautiful. I would say it was my favorite country that I've been to, out of beauty, out of like best food I've ever had, out of the best treks. It was just a beautiful, gorgeous place. And the people, especially the people, like the people were just so welcoming, happy, smiling, generous, always waving, always very like alert and just always trying to wonder where you're from and what you're from and what you're doing, and just curious and just beautiful people. And so you go through those questions of like, how can this happen to such a beautiful place? But like we said, it can happen anywhere, but it's just that why factor. And then I went through a phase of, I'm not gonna let this terrorist attack and the people behind it change like they changed it a little bit, but not completely make me just run away and fly out and not do this experience and do this trip that I want to continue to do, So we were smarter because we did more private instead of public transportation, and I paired up with people instead of just doing it by myself. but we still like decided to.
I think you have to.
You have to, because otherwise,
you know, if you had run and come home,
yeah,
that would be part of you.
Huh? It's like them winning. Like that was their whole point.
Yeah.
Besides causing chaos and
but you'd always carry that fear, I think.
Yeah.
Like if something else happened in another country.
Yeah.
It's like if you fall off a bike.
Yeah.
If you don't get back on.
Yeah.
It's very hard to after that. If you don't get back on, you know.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's so easy though. Like it's weird. I had a friend that was a block away from Charlie Hebdo in France when that went down. And she was watching things on the news, and then she was having a beautiful meal, and her friends from Australia were calling and saying, "Is everything okay?" And she was like, "Yeah, everything's fine." Then she watches the news, and then she thought, "Actually, this is a little bit bigger than we think it was.
Yeah,
I think we should go home." And but it happens everywhere.
Yeah,
and I think, like you said, you don't want to be that type of person that just stays indoors because of fear all the time. I think that's a horrible existence, you know.
Yeah.
But I grew up with Sri Lankans. Some of my best friends are, and they've always wanted to go. One of them just went back, I think, 2 years ago for the first time, and the other one wants to take his kids. So
it's such a gorgeous country.
Well, I was looking at some of your photos before you came on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it does
so
look really
beautiful.
nice.
Yeah. And honestly, the people make the place. So the people are so kind and welcoming. Yeah. And I think too, like instead of like running and just flying home and then having that carried with you forever, like me and Kathy made a conscious decision. Okay, we're going to be smart, but we're going to still do our trip. And then also along the way, like anyone or anything that we see fit and we're able to do, we'll try and help. So like even when we left Hiri to go to Ella, our next destination, we waited in Hiri about 4 or 5 days, and then we continued on. But the private taxi driver, he was actually in Colombo when the attack happened. He was picking up people, and he ended up seeing smoke coming from a building, and he thought it was just a fire. So he went to go and check it out and try to see what was going on. And he ended up seeing the chaos and ended up, instead of running away out of fear, he ended up helping in whatever way he could. And he opened his doors and helped as many people as he could fit into his van and drove him to the hospital. It was a brand new van for him. That is how he creates his income. That's how he takes care of his family, but he didn't even second guess it.
Yeah.
And he ruined his van that day. And it just even reliving with him, like the way that me and Kathy could see to help him is just like talk with him and let him get it out, because you could tell like reliving it helped him. But even reliving it with him was.
Well, you just sustained the tragedy.
Yeah, it was very...
He's just like, he's trying to get away from it, but you're like, tell me more. You're sustaining it there.
No, we're like, let us help you, and we want to know everything.
Yeah.
No, he really, I mean, he did really need to genuinely talk about it, not just out of our interest.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and then the only way we could see if it, and it was only a short-term effect, but give him extra money to try to help him fix his van, and then let him talk about it as much as he wanted to, and just kind of be that, even though we're just random travelers, trying to be that support system to him, because it was only a couple days ago, and I'm sure he couldn't talk to his family about it.
You never know what you're capable of until something like that happens.
Yeah,
I don't know, when you put in a place of seeing that. Even our last trip to Egypt, we saw a father and son. Their car was overturned. We're in the middle of the desert, and they went through the windscreen. Both of them went through the windscreen. They're on the ground. The father couldn't move, and we pulled over our car, and all the father could scream out was, "Is my son okay? Is my son okay?" And there was just blood everywhere. The top part of his head had opened up, and he couldn't move. And then the desert ambulance, the Bedouin ambulance, came and carried away the son. And that was even worse. So when people were trying to look after the son and clear the road for the other cars that were coming past, I was there. And so I went up and I held his hand, and he looked at me, and I could tell he was looking at me. I'm not from around there. And I was just saying, you're going to be okay. He didn't understand. But just having someone there, I think, made a difference.
No, definitely.
Because he couldn't see his son. His son was getting carried away.
Yeah.
And it must be the worst thing. But you just don't know what you will do until you're in that circumstance. Often I thought, there's no way I could see blood. I'm not the best person when it comes to blood. And my family would laugh because they know. I black out really quickly.
Yeah.
If someone tells me a hunting story, I think it's my imagination. I blacked out in the middle of a pizza store once because my friend's telling me how he hunts deer, or he was a hunter and how he, cuts up the animal and, preserves it. And I was really interested. It wasn't that I didn't want to hear. And next minute I was on the floor and they're all trying to wake me up. And it was just my imagination took over. So I thought I'll never be good with bodies and things like that. But when it happened, it was fine.
Yeah.
I just know I needed to be there with the guy.
Yeah, you go into a function mode. I've experienced that a couple of times with work. Because people...
Is it adrenaline?
It might be part adrenaline, but you just have to you just know you have to do what you have to do and you just function. You don't think about it. I think it too is part of letting go of that voice inside of your head, the ego that is distracting or that might have made you black out even with the story with just the deer blood without experiencing it. It's function mode. It's being completely and ultimately present with the situation because you need to be for that person or for that situation. And not getting...
So it's happened to you in surgery, the theatre?
Yes, yeah, definitely. You go into function mode where you just do everything and anything. And it was in emergency situations where you just function and do everything and anything that you can do to help the situation, to help the patient. Yeah, to get the best possible outcome. At that point, there is no emotion or, voice inside of your head telling you what you can and can't do. You just do it. And that comes with, I think that comes with us also with like the training and being prepared in those situations to know what you need to do as well. But you're so prepared that you don't even think about it. You just function and do it. Yeah.
So the training is good then.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It has to be. Hey?
Yeah, definitely.
You've got to be a special type of person, I think, like you are. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah, but like you said, you don't know until you're put in those situations.
Yeah, but we come home sometimes, we've had not a bad day, but a hard day.
Yeah.
And then you sit there and go, those people that are saving lives, it's not like they can just crawl away and just go, hey, I'm not going to deal with it today. And if they're having a bad day, which often they would, what if you've come from a really bad home environment and you're there and then someone's lives needs saving, you have to, there must be a mode that you switch into.
Yeah.
Like I've got a few police officer friends and they say it's the same thing. And they said that when they're on the job, if a new person comes on, they find it very crass. So the jokes they actually tell each other, often it's in really poor taste. But they turned around and said what they don't understand, it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So the crass jokes that we say to each other, it's the way we cope.
Right, with the situation.
With that situation. We don't say those jokes anywhere else. But
only among the people that
understand those people,
it.
Yeah. I knew a crime scene photographer, and he was the same way. He had his own coping mechanism. So, he would do, I think, boudoir, the what's it called? The photography, like lingerie photography.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But he did it because he didn't want his creative craft he'd always wanted to do as a kid, to be stained with, pardon the pun, blood. Because every time he'd pick up a camera, it was to film a crime scene. So he had to change that. It was a mode he went into when doing that.
So it didn't just get associated with that type of work.
His passion,
Yeah.
But I think there's modes that you switch into. Do you remember the most traumatic thing that you experienced?
In work?
Or I should say all the time, but what about the first time you experienced something that really affected you? Do you remember what that was?
all the time you're talking about, or in work?
In work.
In work. Yeah, I mean, there are two that really stick out in my head. Yeah, and they were definitely ones that were emergency situations where you just had to function. It was a case where the patient has been through a lot, and they needed a procedure that was to improve their quality of life. Otherwise, they weren't going to live much longer. So I think that part of it, when stuff did go wrong, and then we had to end up giving a lot of products, so a lot of blood. We had to get the defibrillator in. We had to call code, so people were all rushing in.
Okay.
A lot of things happened in that situation. I do remember in great detail all those that situation, and I think you just have to know. I think this is the other thing why you're functioning in high function mode. For one, you just have to do what you need to do to get done, and as well, like at the end of the day, you know, deep down inside, you did do everything that you could possibly do to help that patient. They ended up not passing away right then and there. We ended up getting them to be able to have okay stats and be able to go back up on the floor with their family. But a couple of days later, the patient did end up passing away.
Did pass away?
Yes, it did end up passing away. Yeah, it's definitely a hard situation. There was that one case that really sticks out in my head. I think the other thing that helps with that one is that, you know, how long would have this patient have been living without this procedure done with a, you know, low quality of life as well. And, you know, they, you know, were weighing out the pros and cons in the situation and knew that this could happen, and to, you know, that they're going to do the best they can, but ultimately it could just be the outcome that ended up coming out. It just stinks. You always wish that it's the other one, you know, the pros and the cons, this could happen or this could happen. And when it goes wrong, you have so much hope for this to actually work. And then when it doesn't, it's hard. But I think, the other one that was the other cases that are hard but also good is the organ procurements, or what they used to be called as organ harvest. It's when a patient has a traumatic brain injury or some other cause of having brain death, and that's brain death of the brain and the brain stem as well. Because the brain, you could have brain death but also have activity in the brain stem, which would allow you to still have like some responsiveness. So it has to be brain death of both of them. Both, okay. And then that's legally pronounced as the time of death once they announce brain death.
The stem in the brain.
Yes, yeah. So once it's pronounced brain death, the family's allowed to help decide if they're going to do organ procurement. And those cases are extremely rewarding, but are extremely hard. And those are another one of those functioning cases, because you have people. So say it's a patient in our hospital that's having the organ procurement. You'll have surgeons from all around. Well, I was in the U.S. at the time, but all around the U.S. coming from different hospitals to get organs from that patient to bring to their other patients to do transplants. So you have to help coordinate all those people. And it's such a time-sensitive thing, but it's also a very coordinating thing. But you're losing a life, but you're also helping that life gain help other people have longer, more quality of life. So it's a very touchy and hard procedure. Yeah,
we've heard a bit about your profession. You're working in a theatre of a hospital.
Yeah.
And the problems that happened, not problems, but the main differences were the technical terms of equipment. Am I right?
Yeah.
But I'm always curious when I hear people in high stressful situations in jobs. I have a few police officers that are friends and a crime scene photographer. And I always like to know, was there a breaking point? Was there ever with you where you sat there and thought to yourself when you came home, you know what? I don't know if I can keep doing this. Or did it make you stronger and sort of, if I can get through that, then I can pretty much get through anything? Was there a time where you had second thoughts?
I wouldn't necessarily say, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say that it was a time that I would be like, no, I can't do this anymore, because I genuinely do love my job, and you know that 98% of the time or 90% of the time I feel extremely fulfilled from it, and I feel accomplished, and I really, really do enjoy it. During those hard times, you obviously do have like during the time you don't have any emotion, you're just functioning. And then after, sometimes you have to allow yourself to feel those emotions that you perhaps would have been feeling during it if you weren't working through it, and just functioning. I think it's extremely healthy during hard times and any not traumatic but intense situations, that you take the time to relive it and relive it and see how you feel and how you think. I think during those times, having good support system through work, which I've always had, while I was in University of Michigan, I had extremely close colleagues that I was working with. Here, I was working agency, so I was bopping around from hospital to hospital, but I had still my agency girlfriends that I could always go to and talk to. And I think having that core system to be able to relive it, talk through it, allows you to bounce back quickly from it. So I think more so than feeling like it was going to defeat me and, want me to give up and not, throw in the towel and not do work anymore or my profession anymore, it more so made me stronger, I would say. And I think it's because I had that good support system to be able to work through it,
Do you have in-house counselors provided?
They're definitely... a lot of times the educators provide that emotional support if they know there's a difficult case, and the main colleagues or the main nurses that were, and I mean all statures, but this is the nurse educators that would be more focusing on the nurses. They would go in and check on the nurses, like, how are you doing? And if they think they need more talking, they can either talk to them or they'll make sure that they're having the support system. There is also, like, through hospitals, there's therapists, even just if you don't have that support system or don't feel comfortable talking to people at work about it or whatever, they will suggest you to go to therapy just to be able to have someone to talk to and have an outlet with it. I think as long as you're aware of, how you're dealing with it, it can make you stronger and you can continue on, or at least that's what happened for me.
Has there been ever a time where you've come home and you've realized a lot of that pent up pressure that you've kept in is now being released at home to something that's totally irrelevant to what you're talking about or arguing about?
Yeah, I think that's an extreme natural human reaction. I think more so when it's those really intense ones, like those emergencies, I get more tired. Like afterwards, you just feel exhausted.
Yeah,
and
you would, wouldn't you?
And you'd have like, hopefully it's the weekend or or you'd come home and maybe instead of, making dinner and watching TV, you just fall asleep for a lot longer than you normally would. You feel more tired. At least that's how I reacted to it. It's more so if I'm stressed at work, maybe, just feel like I'm taking on too many shifts, or because agency you can like pick and choose how many shifts you're doing. So maybe I'm taking on too many shifts and I'm stressed in the sense of working too much and not having that balance. I think that's more of the time when I take it out on my partner in conversations, or you lash out more when I'm not having that balance. Where the emergency ones, I don't think I take that out on anyone. I think I just more so like get exhausted and like sleep more
because you hold
after.
it in.
Yeah. Or you're almost on doing so many things so quickly, which takes a lot of energy as well.
Do you have a bad temper?
I can.
Yeah?
I definitely can have a temper.
I know a few people listening to this will be like,
yeah, she does. It's definitely something. Well, when I was a teenager, I definitely had a really bad temper, but it's definitely something I've worked on like since then. But and still do work on is the lashing out or the bickerments or the fighting, and communicating in a more appropriate way. But yeah, I think when you're stressed at work, that comes out more in me, like the temperament and the lashing out.
Because it could be unconscious too.
Yeah.
You know, you think you've walked away from work.
Yeah.
And it happens afterwards.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, after an argument, you think, that was a bit extreme.
You know what I do is, is when I get hangry. I have to like realize.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Oh, I definitely do. And you have to realize, okay, there's like internally I'm having like this pain that's coming out.
There's a lack of blood sugar. It's affecting me somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like feed yourself, Sarah. Take care of yourself.
But yeah, some people do get hangry.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're one of them.
I'm one of them for sure. But I think being aware that you get hangry helps more so. It took a little while for me to realize that I get hangry. But yeah, Tate pointed that out, was like, I know what you need, food. I'm like, I need, yeah. And I'm like, yep, I definitely have a hanger problem.
I've never seen Tate in a bad, I mean, yeah, I've seen him he's been moody, but I can't imagine him with a bad temper.
I think Tate can have a temper, definitely. Yeah.
I suppose because I just see that sort of, almost.
It's rarely. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's not. It's. And it's more so. Once again, it's like just when stress and things build up.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a little bit on our plate right now regarding like visas and different issues with like figuring out our visa process just within the U.S. and Australia. Like things seems so much more simplistic in the beginning. And easier, but then when you get to the logistics of it, of figuring out the red tape and the visa process, I mean, that adds a lot of stress onto your case. And then along with just natural life stressors, I think with me and Tate, when we let those things build up, that's when you see those little outbursts instead of addressing them and figuring them out and being proactive about them. It's when you pretend like everything's fine. And when you're not addressing that, oh no, there's like some serious things that we need to really figure out and have plans for and work towards and feel like hope towards. But when we have them underlining underneath us, we definitely have those outbursts.
That must be hard when you are in love with someone, but yet you've got these external forces, that you've got to bust through just to be together.
Yeah.
And that must be incredibly frustrating.
It's so crazy too, because it's external forces and we're trying to be together, but then it also like creates sometimes like conflict within a relationship. We're like, well, we're trying to reach the same goal and we're like, we're getting all upset and we're getting upset at each other, but really it's the external forces.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to remind
ourselves. It's more frustration.
It is,
yeah.
Yes.
That must be hard. And is it harder to come into Australia or to migrate into America?
It is easier to come in Australia for like temporary like working holiday visas. Like we don't have that option really per se unless you have a degree and then you can go over, or if there's a career that is in need and they can prove that that career is in need.
In the States?
In the States,
okay.
Yeah. They do have like working visas.
Sure.
But they're, in my personal opinion, they're harder to get just based off of the criteria that you have to have in order to go and get one of those working visas. Over here, it's easier to get the working holiday visa. Once you start to get the logistics of more long-term visas, they're both equally complex.
Sure.
In the sense of time frames, how long it takes, cost, how long you're allowed to be outside the country, just different rules and regulations. I would say honestly, like looking at both of them, because we've looked in both of them, in the logistics of both of them pretty in depth. They're both equally difficult. If you were we're both travelers and we both love our family a lot. So
that makes it
makes it way more difficult. It makes it way, no, it does.
And it'd be all right if one of you just couldn't stand your family.
He's like, it's fine. I'm leaving them forever. Yeah. No, because we want to be able to spend time in Australia and spend time in the U.S. It's easier if you just go and like, I'm going to live in Australia. I'm going to come over here for 2 years, work on my PR, get it, live here forever and stay here forever. But it's when it gets down to the logistics of trying to get visas where you can have one even just as your permanent home and then be able to travel other things. Because there's a lot of times when you're getting permanent residence in either one of the countries, there's a big chunk of time that you either can't leave or they won't let you in until it's approved, depending on where you apply for. For instance, if you apply outside of Australia for permanent residency, you can't be inside Australia when it's approved. And if you approve for and if you apply for permanent residency within Australia, you can't be outside when it's approved. You have to be in Australia. Gosh. If that makes so, it's just like time sensitive things. And because we're like, oh well, I do want to go and see my family within that 18 months that it takes to get the permanent residency within Australia. I mean, there's ways around it because you can apply for travel visas, but those last only 3 months. So it's all time sensitive and confusing to figure out. And then you also think you've done all this research and you think how much time it's going to last, but then there's big delays that, make your time and your plans change up some.
Was your family a little worried at the beginning, thinking we're going to lose our daughter to Australia? Those damn Australians are going to kidnap our daughter. Was there ever a time, or they were just, it'd be natural as a parent, but when you first come back and go, hey, mum, dad, I've met someone, he's Australian.
Yeah. Well, picture that. Your daughter just graduated college, and she, especially being an American family, she's going on this 3-month backpacking trip, which a lot of people in the U.S., more and more people in the U.S. are starting to travel. But at the time, it was like more like taboo. Like, what do you mean you want to leave the States or you want to go that far for that long? So they, were a little worried for me, but supportive for me to do that trip. And then coming back and be like, well, I actually met a man and he's coming over. Yeah. And he's going to, come and be with us.
He's a recovering heroin addict, but he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't. Tate's not a recovering addict at anyone.
Or is he?
Or is he? Yeah, that for any parent.
He's going to love this.
Yeah, for anyone that would be like, oh my God.
Yeah, obviously when he first originally came over.
Same for Tate's family.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was here. However, I was here.
No, I didn't.
I always felt very welcomed, but maybe behind closed doors. Any family is going to be like,
Sarah.
Ooh.
No. No. It wasn't that at all.
Yep.
I was going to make another joke, but I can't just keep making jokes because people don't know. I know. And it's so hard for me not to make a joke. But no, we knew that, it was a great thing. Tate went away and travelled.
Yeah.
And he became a different guy. I remember saying to Tate at one stage, I can't remember the last time I've seen you smile and laugh. Mm. And, its circumstances worked out where I think he had to go. And I was saying to him, he said, Wayne, I'm going to go travelling. I said, great, go do it. Get yourself away from this situation. And 1 month would go past and nothing. And then another month would go, another month would go. And I kept reminding him, saying, look, you're going to go travelling. And one day I think he got a bit upset at me and he said, well, what if I don't? What if I don't? What if I just stay here? And I said, it's okay, but, just you'll love it when you go. Yeah. So when he did go, I was happy. And he became a different man because of it, in a good way. He became more relaxed. He was smiling more. And I think it's that perspective. You take yourself out of that world, which was this world, and then he went travelling and it gave him that perspective of, that things can work out okay and sometimes in a better situation than I was before. Yeah. So I think it was good.
No, I think he even says all the time how he has a different appreciation even for home. Like,
when you're away from it.
Yeah. And then, the pros and the cons of where he grew up and an appreciation of like how beautiful Australian Perth is and what it has to offer that he wasn't putting the perspective in a positive aspect beforehand. So going and traveling and realizing that. Yeah.
And that's why travel's so important that we used to talk about before.
Yeah.
And then you get some really proud nations. Like Vietnam was one of the proudest nations I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Even Egypt. like our guide's an Egyptologist, and he loved his history. He would talk to us about his history with a sense of pride. His chin would always be up, and because it came from a 3,000-year-old empire, one of the longest empires ever, and it's great to see. He's travelled as well. So he went away to Europe, and then he came back to Egypt with an appreciation. Because when you're stuck in there all the time, you can't see the wood from the trees. And then after a while, you only start to see the dead wood. And you start to sit there and go, God, there's so much poverty here. There's so much, you start to see all the negative sides. But all of a sudden moving away and then coming back, there was a love for his own country. And I think when he sees tourists coming there and experiencing that sense of awe that we did.
Yeah.
And then thanking him at the end, it sort of gave him an appreciation too. And I think it's wherever you live. It's when you go away, you come back and you think, oh, this little place we called home for so many years that we didn't know anything before and would always complain. It is beautiful. There's beautiful parts about it. And I think that's what it does for a lot of people that goes away. But yeah, I do know that. I think because I know Tate's mum, everyone that's listening, and I do know she was they're always worried that their son's going to be immigrating somewhere, and just like your parents would too. So it must be a hard thing.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think too, like my parents definitely worried about it quite a bit. But I think they realized they needed, for their own happiness, to stop worrying about it because it was completely out of their hands and control. And once they did that, at first I did have a lot of drawback with even like going over and moving over here. That they supported me for me moving over here, but they were worried that I'd go and move over here forever. But my mom was the first one to suggest, when we had the first delay with Tate's green card, what other visa can you get in Australia so you guys can be together? Like once she started to stop focusing on worrying about losing me, she was always supportive, but she became even more supportive. Yeah. Like I didn't feel that underlining like pain of what she's going through as well. I think that's a hard thing though.
I think it makes a difference as well because she ended up meeting Tate.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I think once they meet the partner, because you never know who your daughter's going to bring home from overseas, that she was on a 3-month backpacking trip in Southeast Asia. Yeah. You think about it. But I think, they're put at ease. Your dad, your mother, your father and mother are put at ease once they meet the partner.
Well, they thought he was just coming over to steal my money and like underlining, like they didn't. I'm like, both of us are like, what money? Like I meant. It's just funny. And they're like, oh yeah, right. Well, we don't know yet. We just need to learn them, and they were just like worried, but I'm like, Mom, like, and then once they saw us together, they obviously like understood. So she was just like scared and stuff, but it's cute now looking back on it because they have such a good relationship.
It makes it easier. God, can you imagine being a parent?
Yeah.
I think it would be so hard. Like I'm not. People say it's hard to be a kid, but it's harder to be a parent.
Yeah.
You really don't know because once they're out of your house, they're out of your control. Even when they're in school, it really depends on the friends they meet that really shape them into the adult they're going to become. I mean, friends have a massive influence on your character.
Yeah.
Your life could go one way or the other. It'd be really hard. It'd be really hard. I couldn't imagine having a daughter.
Me neither. Oh. I hope I don't have a daughter.
Geez, so I was going to ask you because is there anything else that you enjoy, Sarah, that you could foresee yourself doing down the track?
Well, one thing, it's related to what I'm already doing. I would love to volunteer more. Like I've done a couple good volunteer projects, but nothing with longevity that I'd really like to see, like either working within a nonprofit or working with an organization that I could return back to and continue to give back and to see the growth and to build more long-lasting relationships to see that long-term effect. The little 1 week at a time projects that I have done, it's when I feel the most fulfilled. Like it is, but you can't obviously you can't. Like I can't truthfully right now just continue to volunteer all the time, but I would love to get to the point where I could either build a longevity with an organization so I could return back to it. That would be my dream.
Well, it's also taking the skills you've got.
Yes, I know. Well,
There's
that
a
was, yeah, I mean, that was a huge part of why I, continued on and went into nursing, is to be able to travel with it. And now I can internationally not only go to different cultures and different places and learn from them. I feel like I could volunteer and give back my skills, not just take from them, but be able to volunteer and give back my skills to have this more mutual, respected, beneficial relationship. So sometimes when you're going and experiencing and traveling different cultures, I almost feel intrusive. Like, what is my footprint here really doing for the community? Is it just out of my benefit? And sometimes I have that guilt with that. So I think if I was able to do that with nursing and be able to give back that with my skills, I think that would fill that gap for me.
I think there's always places for volunteering. That would be great. And like you said, you don't have to do it all the time.
Yeah.
But, once a year, once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Something I was really curious in, because I don't know anyone else in the medical industry.
Yes.
How has technology changed your industry in the past 5 years? Well, I can't say 10 years.
Yeah, I know, because I haven't been doing it for that long, so 5 years.
Have you noticed any big changes?
I mean, big changes, we did have like the big change from, in the States, we have all electronic based medical information. So everything, all the documentation, at least within my hospital, I'm sure there's some hospitals that are still like paper based, but was all done on the computer. And that was a recent change when I got hired in there. So to see that progression to it, and the ease that it does come with those electronic based documents. And then in Australia, I know some companies do have the electronic base, but a lot of companies still have the paper documents. But you guys are making the progress and the motion more towards to electronic base documentation. And with that, just like I think, well, for one, it's more unified, and a lot of times if you use the same programs, for lack of a better term, but if you use the same programs, then it's a lot of gaps in how stuff should be filled out, or, how do you write this, or even just misreading someone's handwriting can be improved. It's hard making big changes like that, though, because it is such a big change, to go from one way and knowing the documentation. Because once you have something that's working, why fix it? Or, it's not broken, so why fix it? So to make that change into more electronic, it's difficult, especially I think with your guys' public versus private. It's hard to combine the two in order to do that.
What about, do you think your job will eventually be automated?
Oh.
Like automation?
Yeah.
Because I have heard there's surgeons that are doing remote surgery using robotic arms.
Robotics. Yeah, I mean, that's happening now. That's happening now with cases. So we've had this data. I think it will continue to increase, and there'll be more and more surgeries with robotics. When it comes to nursing and patient care, my personal preference, which me and Tate disagree about this issue, but I think when it comes to nursing and healthcare, there's a really important aspect when it comes to person-to-person care, that human reaction, that compassion, that care that you can't get from robotics. So I don't think we'll have the debate about will robots take over all the nursing and healthcare jobs, or what jobs will be distinct and no longer exist with robotics and AI. For me personally, I mean, I'm biased because it's my job.
Yeah.
But I think that caring, compassion, that energy, that even in school you do therapeutic, you learn therapeutic touch, and in the sense of comforting people, and effective communication. All those skills are very embedded in nursing care, and I do think that is a very important part of the healing process for humans, the environment that you're providing. And I don't think that can be executed with just robotics.
Well, I mean, my thought is, I think you're both right. I think humans and robotics will be symbiotic. I think the human will be, I mean, we're already half robot now when we take our phones around.
Yeah,
I mean, we're
yeah.
cyborg, really.
Right.
I think it will be half and half.
Agreed.
I think you'll have the precision of a robot, but the empathy of a human. I think that would be the best of both.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Sarah, you're leaving when again? Wednesday.
Wednesday, yep.
So if you ever come back to Perth in Australia, we'll have to do a follow-up podcast to see how things have changed.
Yeah.
Well, you're a married woman now, aren't you?
I am.
I know. Did that change you at all? Did that solidify and settle things down a little bit?
And in the sense of our relationship, I mean, I think marriage
As a person.
Yeah. Oh, as a person.
It settled.
Ooh,
Did it settle things down?
No, I think I still, I mean, like at the time of getting married, I wanted to like travel and explore a lot and do a lot with my career. I still feel like at the same point. I think if anything, it settled our relationship. I mean, it's difficult being in a long distance relationship sometimes, but like now we're married. There's no like even the engagement instead of just being in a boyfriend girlfriend situation settled that a little bit.
Does.
Like, okay, this is going to be more long term. I don't have to worry as much. Like, things will work out. And now we're married. It's like, okay, things will figure out. It will work its way out. So that's more settled. It's just figuring out how. Like, we're going to make it work and make it all flow together. It's not, if, it's just how now,
And it'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
Well, let's see how it all goes for you. I wish you all the best. And when you come back, please come back. And we'll do a follow-up podcast.
No, I'll definitely be back. Sounds good.
Unless I'll have to bring this unit over to Michigan if you don't come back.
Hey, yes, please come to Michigan.
Yeah.
But I will be back.
Okay, cool. Nice to see you.
All right,
Bye.
nice to see you. Bye.